Good afternoon, all
Woo, and we're
shifters
live.
in the house. Oop,
All shifters
oop,
in the house.
all shifters in the house. This is season 3,
Season 3,
episode
episode dose.
2. Sometimes I know, sometimes I don't, because I actually, thankfully, Deena posted before me. She was on the ball. She was go, go, go. I was like, yeah, I need to post. And then I had a Zoom call. So she was on the ball. She knew what episode and what season it was. And meanwhile, I was in a Zoom call. So thank you, Deena, for
That's all
knowing all
good.
the.
Usually you're the one that posts. And we have a spanky new spreadsheet because we have so many episodes now and we've got guests that we've invited in the future, including we have one special guest joining us today. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I put together a little spreadsheet so we could kind of keep track. So that's why I happen to know what episode
She's,
we were on.
she likes to spread the
She
sheets.
Hey, this is a clean cut, I might
I
remind
know
you.
it's a clean cut show. I
It's
was
kind of
like,
funny
how do
because
we do a clean cut show with power?
oh, we can. We
Right?
totally can.
It's going to be a
We're doing
powerful
two,
show.
we're doing two clean cuts in a row. And I said to Carrie, oh my goodness, we're doing two clean cuts in a row. We are going to be so ready for an unfiltered. And her response included an F bomb going, F yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah. Anyways,
Right.
it's fun to hang out with you. So
Thank you. I
today
appreciate that.
we are welcoming a special guest that helps people create shifts in their life, empower themselves, empower their next chapters, and deal with trauma from their past. But before we get into that, now that we have everybody kind of got a teaser out there, how's your last 2 weeks been, Carrie? What's new and groovy? What do you want to talk about?
New and groovy. Oh boy. What's been sort of new but not new is going and doing yoga practice, which has been a wonderful shift in my life because it's helping me in a lot of different ways. So I'm finding it empowering, which goes along with today's show. It also has been challenging because I'm like, yeah, no, I can't balance this way. And yes, I can balance that way. And then some weeks I'm like, yes, I can feel like I can do it. And then the next week it's like, I feel like I've done 10 steps backwards. So it's very good for personal growth and very good for humility and very good for challenging yourself. So, those of you who want a challenge in your health field, I would suggest doing yoga. It's been interesting. And then on top of it's incorporating some of the breathing techniques into every day and just having like moment to yourself. So it's like it's very refreshing and it's very nice. So it's been a very and it wasn't a New Year's shift at all. Like I started back in October. So it's been very nice. It's been nice and smooth and sailing. So and then for New Year's types of resolutions, which we didn't do resolutions, we had done intentions. One of the intentions that I didn't know that I was going to do, but I got a little bit back into reading, which is great
Good.
because I had a guest on my Connected with Carrie show, Linda Nardelli, who is also on our 262 book. She is an empowering coach and she does readings and she does like spiritual work, but she also just does like just kind of like what's your soul purpose, things like that. It's been very interesting of a read. So now it's kind of got me back into sort of like the intention of just learning a little bit more about inside as a whole and everyone out there in the world. Like it's an interesting book. So how about you, Deena? How's your, because I don't want to digress.
Well, I
Because I
just
could
want to
go
touch
on forever.
on, yeah, I just want to touch on my word of the year. I've chosen abundance and I am seeing tons of examples. So I just want to remind people to really be conscious of the abundance that's around you. And there's a few different ways of looking at this. One is we tend to, it's just human nature, no guilt or blame on anybody, but we do tend to see somebody with something we wish we had, and we're like, well, look what they have, or, FML on me because I don't have that, or whatever it is. And we compare instead of celebrate and go, wow, good for them. That's awesome. And if that's available to them, that's available to me. Like I, you can see abundance that way. Also,
Mhm.
abundance isn't just tangible things you can touch and feel and own, like a mansion and a race car or whatever it might be, but it's also those beautiful things where there's a word of encouragement, a compliment, some kind of a kindness, a smile. There's just so much abundance available. And I found that, for instance, I have kind of been one to, I scoff like name brands and big trends, and I kind of rebel against that kind of thing. But an
Are
example
you
of that is,
rebelling against TikTok too?
oh, who knows? I have it. I rarely on it. Um, Starbucks is an example. So that, it's so
Mm.
big and whatever. And I will only get myself a Starbucks treat. And I don't drink coffee, but I love their steamers. I get an oat milk steamer with caramel sauce if I have a gift card. And what I have found is, and I've given some gift cards, several actually over the Christmas season, but I received more than I gave. And I bet I got $150 in Starbucks gift cards. And so there's one right near my Costco. So I'll pop in there. And each time I do, I'm so grateful. So when we feel the gratitude for whatever small amount of abundance we notice, then that attracts more. And so I just want to remind people, take a breath, notice what's around you. You might be having a tough time, but there is so much abundance. And, you'll hear somebody who's sick or maybe very seriously ill. We got news about a family friend that is very seriously ill. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, what I have to be grateful for.
Mhm.
Um, I have another day. I woke up, I'm breathing, I'm walking, I can take care of myself, whatever that might be, and really use that to propel yourself towards more, and it'll bring in more. And I just heard a Joe Dispenza video, and I'll get right to our guest here right away. I
Okay.
just heard a Joe Dispenza video last night on YouTube that reinforces the science behind it. Is our mind and like our brain and our heart have a direct link, obviously, but
Mhm.
our emotions can impact how healthy our heart and brain are. And literally, it changes the rhythm of our heart when we are more grateful and calm, and we bring that in. And then it in turn makes our brain more open to be able to learn, to remember, to think, to figure things out. And so it's such a beautiful partnership. And if we're conscious of our emotions, we can help enhance that and make it amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That really is. And it's very true. Abundance is out there, and we often, like you said, we will take it for granted sometimes that, what we have, even just at home, because we've kind of all grown up in a society where, we want more, 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 more. And it's usually more material goods instead of what about, more happiness or more charity towards other, or more, we can give more instead of receiving more. So that's something to totally look into and be grateful. Like look around, just be like, yeah, today I woke up, I can enjoy this beautiful day. Even if it's a horrible day outside, enjoy that you woke up to even bad weather, whatever. But just, you have a roof over your head, or, you get to spend the day with friends, whatever you're doing, just be grateful for that moment, because who knows? That could be our last day. We don't know. And then I
Mhm.
like to take those. Sometimes I've got friends who will reach out to me and they're like, yeah, I'm having such a bad day, and this is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and this is going wrong. And I go, I just, I feel your pain and I understand your pain. And I said, I heard something about this situation, and it was a really bad situation. And I just kind of remind them without telling it to their face how really they have it so good, even though on it's like their bad day. Just a gentle reminder going, hey, we have it pretty good some days compared to, just kind of that little bit of a conversation, but abundance and really, you know, and everyone has their own mind frame of the abundance, right? Like I said, more material than it is just that charity of others, or like you said, even if it's like a tiny little gift card, I know that's a material thing, but it's not a huge material thing. And it's just something that puts a smile on your face. So what can we all do to put a smile on someone else's face? I think today, everyone text your friend and just say, hey man, I love you. Have a great day. I think that would be very cool.
That would be
Right?
amazing. We'll start a
Yeah.
whole wave. Now, we want to also be kind and gentle to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we want to give ourselves some grace as well. And if you felt like you dropped the ball, and the conversation you had with the kids, if you dropped them off at school and you were angry at them and everybody made you late and everybody was grumpy, and don't cut yourself some grace. And our guest today is going to help us deal with some of those traumas and how to empower ourselves and just, be kind and take care of yourself. And that is then going to impact your relationships.
Right. Shall we bring our guest in?
Let's bring our guest on, Ramona Kossowan. Welcome, Ramona.
Hi. Can you hear me?
So
we've
great to have
all
you
done
here.
Zooms too long.
Yep.
Instead of going like covered,
I don't like doing jazz hands. Oh my God. You guys go ahead. I just personally, I'd rather just do hell yeah.
Just like
Whoops,
raise the
that,
roof.
well, that works and that's okay. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay.
the roof.
So Ramona, welcome. You have been a viewer and you are part of our community, in my community with the Life Changes and Divorce Magazine, and such an amazing contributor there. So people probably already have met you in some capacity, but for those who haven't, please tell us who you are, what you do, and let's dig into these power shifts that you help people with.
Cool. So if you don't know me, my name is Ramona. I'm your friendly neighborhood trauma coach, fitness professional, personal empowerment coach, and food relationship coach. So in the context of divorce and life changes, I help women, especially sometimes men, to revitalize themselves and fall in love with themselves again, even after major life upheavals. That's my jam.
In a nutshell.
I love that. We should have had this as a Valentine's special, to fall in love with yourself, because you hear single people going, I am so done with all of that. But do you love yourself? Let's start there.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a bit of a stretch. It's too far from how we've existed. And I was the same way. I remember doing mirror exercises with earlier coaching that I had received and programs I was in, to go and say, I love you in the mirror. I could not do that. It was way too much. So we have to meet ourselves where we're at. Sometimes to even do that just feels unworthy, unsafe, so far from reality. So I find it helps to show kindness, right? We can put kindness and self-love into action rather than trying to force yourself to say something that you're not ready to say, right? It's just too triggering. It feels untrue. So I find those, how can I show love to myself? Because that's something you can choose every single day. You can choose by the moment. If I was to love and respect myself, how would I respond to this situation? What would I do?
What would you do?
I like
What
that.
are some examples that you give to others, your clients, of that example? How do you love yourself? How do you deal with that every single day and learn to really love and grow yourself?
Well, I like to start with the foundational basics, which is feeling safe in your body. And I don't just mean from obvious things like abuse, but if you're living in survival mode, running on fumes, and you're not addressing the basic needs that a toddler would require. So a toddler requires affection, sleep, food at regular intervals. If you're not getting that, forget the rest. Let's start there, right? Are you running on fumes in survival mode? Right? It's no, you're not meant to live like that. You're just a piece of meat running around. You have no connection to your real truth. So start with, how can I show love to myself in the most basic of ways? Are my basic needs being met on the regular? That's where I like to start.
I want to add one more. to use the washroom regularly.
Oh my gosh, if you're
You
not
can
even
take
thinking
stuff
to
the
pee,
bathroom.
like, oh my
Like,
gosh, right?
how many of us do that?
Hold it in.
My
Yeah, it's
gosh,
just like, oh,
yeah.
I don't have time. I don't have time. So rest and
It's true.
food and affection, I think, or whatever word you use there, Ramona,
yeah,
and those
connection.
basic needs. I love
Yeah.
that you related that to a toddler. That's something we can remember and just go, wait a minute, am I looking
Yeah.
after the toddler in me? Like, that's what would I do for a child in this situation? Would I just make them keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, and darn well they need a nap?
Yeah, or they're
Oh,
overstimulated,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, we have different ways to navigate that, but the truth is, have you been over functioning in some way, and your nervous system is saying, no, right? So those are the basics. The feeling safe in your body starts there. And I'm
Right.
all about safety because healing is built on the foundation of safety,
Right.
externally and internally.
So how
And
many
even
times a day do we say I love you in the mirror to help us get over it?
Like, literally, most people don't do it, right? But if that's
Really?
too far and too far out and
Yeah.
too weird, a lot of people are not ready for that. And like, I wasn't before I had done
Yeah.
some healing work.
Wow.
Showing that
Yeah.
even with the step of
Mm.
I'm worthy of receiving love, or I'm worthy of showing kindness to myself. Start with I'm
Yeah.
safe to, I'm worthy to, even
Right.
I'm safe to. Like, I'm safe to show love to myself. Starts to tell your nervous system, okay, well, maybe I can do that, and start with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know. So what about affirmations? I know sometimes people say, oh, you write down an affirmation, hang it in your mirror and say those every day. Would you recommend affirmations along with that, or just go, no, let's just start with, just the love?
Sure, affirmations can be a part of it. What I like to look for with when I'm working with clients is, first of all, we do start with releasing trauma so that their nervous system is feeling more settled. Because affirmations don't do a lot when your nervous system is hijacked by trauma and it's dysregulated too much, like too hypervigilant, too shut down. So when you're in that middle place of now ready to receive, I like to use affirmations as a way to pave some new pathways in your brain, because the old ones are filled with these deep ruts of the inner critic and all the lies that it tells you, which is not you, by the way, that's not you. But trauma really takes the inner critic to the next level. We all have one, but it takes it like next level, right? So in conjunction with the other pieces, the affirmations help you to form new neural pathways. And I make it very specific to the person, where it's a bit of a stretch in the direction that you want to go, like you're reaching a little bit, but your nervous system isn't like, no, 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 lies, lies, lies. And it's like, you may as well just say, I'm the Prime Minister of Canada, and your nervous system will go, yeah, whatever, right? So it needs to be a stretch. So for example, like, I have people play with it. Like, does your body go, okay, yeah, I can do with that? Or does your body go, no? All right. So it's like, for example, I'm worthy of being kind to myself. I like them in the I am statement. So I am present tense, not don't, not want, not reaching, but now. So I'm worthy of taking care of myself. Like, that's not such a stretch that your nervous system freaks out, but it may be a bit of a reach if you're currently not taking care of your inner toddler at all.
And then you can work yourself up to, I kind of like you. I think you're kind of cool. And then eventually, I love you.
Like, yeah, you're okay.
You're okay.
Yes.
We'll
And
hang
it can
around
be
for a little while.
like all parts of you. So if your really annoying parts, your embarrassing parts, right, your selfish parts, your childish parts, your victim-y parts show up, they need your love too. So it's about, I accept, I see you.
Yeah.
I accept you and love you as you are. Even if you're bettering yourself, it's okay. But you're worthy of love now. You don't have to earn it.
And giving yourself grace to be in learner mode. I'm just learning that. Like,
yeah.
So I don't need to know it
I think
all at once
it's
right
almost,
now.
yeah. it's almost like I don't think we can learn it all at once. I think over time we have to love ourselves at each interval of our life or each sort of day of our life and go, okay, yeah, I loved the child in me and I loved the teenager in me. And now it's like the adult stages. And, I love, or, whatever we're doing in our life, maybe a career. I loved the school teacher in me and I love this in me and I love that in me. Just noticing even the different changes. I think that you've been through every single stage too and going, where we're learning that this is who we were and we're transforming into somebody else. I think that's the empowering piece of it.
Sometimes looking back and celebrating where you've come from.
Exactly.
And recognizing, oh my gosh, I did that. So I'm capable of whatever else. Go ahead, Ramona. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's we're always learning and evolving. That's part of living. Like we're never just flat, right? That's just boring.
Yeah.
Then we're not growing. So I like to think of it as having love and compassion for the past versions of you who weren't as equipped and resourced as you are now, or were more wounded in some ways, whatever it was. Because there's be times we weren't at our best, and you're looking like, oh man, right? So, me too, right? So, sorry to anyone out there that experienced me not at my best, because right? So,
PSA, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's having love and compassion for the past versions of you, while allowing yourself to evolve unapologetically and as you go, like all the time.
You touched on wounds or, like, let's talk about trauma, because that is a specialty. That's an area that you help people. And it feels like that's the next step. Once you feel safe, now can we explore things that maybe didn't feel safe and how that affected you? And then from there, I'm thinking then we get into the empowerment.
Yeah.
Power shifts.
Yeah. So in my work, if I'm connecting with a man or woman, who has come to a place of, yes, I think I want to receive some trauma coaching. The process itself is creating safety. So when I work with someone, they may not feel safe in their body at that moment. So if I go and tell someone, do the mindset work, do your breathing work, get back in your body. No, their body's like, no, I don't want to be here. That's why I'm over here dissociated. So, the work in and of itself, because it's embodied and nervous system based, is creating the safety. And once the safety is created, then you can come back, feel safe, process, and integrate. So you're healing and integrating, and the empowerment work just holds hands with that, because the therapeutic needs to happen. You will have cognitive shifts unprompted when you release trauma in this way. So you'll automatically have a different perspective on your own without being prompted. But then the empowerment part is to help you rebuild, because you're not the person you were when this thing happened or that relationship ended. You're not the person you were before, but you're not the new version either yet. You're in between. So that's where the transition work and the changing patterns comes into play to maintain your well-being.
That's fascinating. Where could people start? So those who are listening,
yeah,
and they're feeling unsafe, they're feeling dissociated. I've been there myself. It's a very disconcerting feeling. You're thinking, well, I probably should be reacting a certain way, or I just feel like I'm out here somewhere, and that's a good way of describing it. Like you said, you feel like you're over there and
in a daydream, and
it's
often
hard.
La La Land is what I like to call it, often La La Land. And you're not 100% sure where you're going or where you came from, but you're just, just doing your everyday thing. You're on, like, what do they call autopilot?
Autopilot.
Every day.
Like, I didn't recognize until later that a large part of what was happening with me in my school years is that I was spacing out. That was dissociation. I wasn't stupid. People even said to me that I was stupid. I'm smart. I'm not stupid. But I would glaze and space. And that was, I didn't know it, of course, at that time. That's what I was doing, is dissociating, right? I think the first thing is to recognize that it's not a response or a reaction that you need to judge, shame, or force yourself out of. It's warming up something that's really cold, right? So we're going to just like bring in pieces that nurture you, bring in pieces that give you joy. So play. If you go and do something fun and play, chances are you're not dissociated when you're doing that. So there you go. Play, fun,
Get out
safe
there and have
people.
fun.
You don't
Yeah.
get to judge the responses that your body has to overwhelm and threat. And threat isn't always in the obvious sense. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not obvious. It's just something to your nervous system that feels inescapable or overwhelming. And so rather than judging any of the responses like it's a response that needs to be fixed, it's
Right.
how do I get back in my body in a way that's not overwhelming? And play is one of the best ways to do that.
That's fascinating. And it gives us that encouragement and that permission, if you want to say, as an adult to play. And now that brings back that toddler. They learn through play. They connect with other people. They learn how to, move their body, how to move things. They learn cause and effect. Play teaches us so much. And for some reason, we feel like we need to be adults and mature, and play
Right. That's
isn't
the difficult
necessarily.
part, right? I mean, when we're toddlers, we have our parents to kick us outside and go play or enroll us into classes or to do something. So how can we get into the play mode as adults?
Well, lean in to what you're curious about. So if you used to enjoy doing stuff with your hands, go back to that. If you were always interested in singing, give it a shot. That's what I did. My mom, you could have knocked her over with a feather when I told her I enrolled in singing lessons. It was almost as big of a shock as when she found out I was selling vacuums door to door when I was 19 years old.
Oh, nice.
Right. So, but I'm like, this is something I actually wanted. That part of me I wanted that I hid. I stuffed that part away, way down, that was interested in singing, because she was so sweet and innocent. And I saw other girls and women. I'm like, I'm not like them. So I didn't. And then it kept coming up. My intuition was saying, you should take singing lessons. Like, I never did, right, I do singing lessons. And like, okay, I'll do singing lessons. And honestly, it freaked the heck out of me because it was so vulnerable. And I'm like, my face was purple. I was sweating. And I was a really nice singing instructor. And they're like, okay, right, just be patient with me. I'm really uncomfortable right now. So
just walking in the door.
it was for me, right? It was only for me. So what would you do that's only for you, or something that you enjoy doing with people who enjoy it with you? So the sky's the limit. It can be little or it can be big. So it might be having a snowball fight. It might be having a freak dance in your studio. Not that I'm mentioning anyone who does that, but so a little freak dance. It might be singing. It might be painting. It might be whitewater rafting. So whatever it is that you feel kind of drawn for that seems unnecessary, that's probably what you need to do.
Love it.
I did that with painting, and it was terrifying. And it sounds silly, but I can relate to your singing, Ramona.
Oh, yeah.
I was terrified of the result. And I grew up, my mom was very, she was a painter, my grandma, my daughter, one of my bonus daughter, I have artists and friends who are artists. And I just thought, why would I even try? What's the point? Kind of like you're saying with singing, right? And and if I put it in, I don't know how to manipulate the paint. And again, learning mode. It's okay to, I'm not going to be a perfectionist the first time I try, and I'm never going to learn if I don't try. So I signed up for a painting class. I actually invited a close friend of mine who does paint, and it was a beautiful little garden party group. And it wasn't like a paint night. It was an instructional, some basic strokes. And I made this picture that I have framed, and I've since gone on YouTube and I've learned a few more things. And if I get away from it for a while, I miss it and think, oh, I should try again. And then I kind of got to go through that whole fear thing again. But that play is really interesting where it takes you. And I think it also gives us more compassion for others.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
like,
beautiful. Put a little bit of sun over here and a little.
yeah. Well, it's, it's like, well, why we're conditioned to think that if we start something that's a hobby, so to speak, that we have to do it because we're good at it. No, we don't. You can
No.
paint and paint in a way that you feel is not that good. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I just like circle, feel a little rays sticking out, and I'm like, there's my son.
Pick people, whatever.
Beautiful.
It doesn't matter if you're quote good at it. It's something that it's an experience you want, and that's enough reason to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question because this kind of reminds me of maybe shaming someone into thinking it's a midlife crisis. If you're now all of a sudden picking up new things or doing this or doing that, how do we differentiate between the two?
Let's embrace the midlife crisis, okay? Because it's basically telling you that you're living a lie. That's my perspective. Your life has not been your own for far too long, and you're sick of it. You are not living for yourself, not living as yourself. You're putting on masks. You're performing. You're over functioning. Your boundaries are porous. You've neglected yourself, and it's literally exploding in your face. So I say embrace it. Like, obviously, don't burn your family out of the picture. Like, think about the people that you love who are there for you. But this is a huge, giant slap in the face, I think, from life and your nervous system and your unconscious saying, we can't tolerate this shit anymore. So, it's I think, especially for women, because of the societal conditioning and the identities that we adopt that are socially acceptable, and you just get bloody sick of it, and you simply can't tolerate it, and the rage starts to build because you're just so sick of it all. None of it is authentic. So I think it's like a tuning fork for how authentic is your life right now. Is it yours?
Well, there's a reason it's called crisis.
It's a crisis because your nervous system is like, no more, right?
Yeah.
Throw menopause in the mix. Yeah, you might need to address some other health issues. But if you've neglected yourself up until that point, not because something's wrong with you, but because that was your default, it's gonna hit you like a freight train at some point, emotionally, mentally, physically.
It's true, and you just want to run away from that. You just want to run away,
and that's a good sign. When you want to run away, that's a good sign that your life is not feeling authentic right now. So that's where I like to get under that with people.
That's beautiful.
That was a great question, Cari.
Yeah, because to me, I feel like that's one of the stages in our life is the midlife crisis. Like, everyone goes through it, but that's not actually the case.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's always the case.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Well, yeah, to expand on that too, like, think of even one generation before us, and what was socially acceptable for women at that point, it has changed a lot now. So of course women went through a midlife crisis because they probably suppressed 90% of their true needs, desires, wants, and personality. So I mean, men to some extent, but I find for women more so because of societal conditioning and roles that we play. So I think it just hits you like a freight train at some point.
Right. And in fact, we're actually taught, I don't know, because I grew up thinking it was more the men, that the men would go through midlife crisis, not actually women. That's very interesting. Very fascinating too.
I think it's because the men maybe felt safe to follow that calling, and just like totally, often you hear that the midlife crisis for men was go buy a red convertible and mess around with their blonde secretary, and they're gone and they mess up their whole family, and like this is a midlife crisis stereotype. And I think they could lean into that easier, and the women were, like Ramona says, just suppressing that, didn't even know if they were allowed to think of their dreams or what they'd want because they put them on hold for so long. And the question you asked about the midlife crisis, Cari, made me think that many times we're so concerned what others will perceive and say and think if we were to suddenly start living our dreams and going for singing lessons or dance class or whatever it might be. I mean, I've heard of women signing up for dance class, and the only one that was available was them with all the little 8 and 9-year-olds, and they're the only adult, right?
I would still do it. I'd be right in there with them. And
But people were scoffing and going, "What?
Hokey
Who does she,
pokey.
what? She's crazy." And so it's scary to consider what other people are thinking. And yet, by this age, really, we should hopefully have learned not to be so concerned about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I can't
Everyone
speak
go
for a man.
volunteer at kindergartens or grade 1 and 2 dance classes and just get your hokey pokey on.
Well,
Right? Why
we,
not?
I think more so we need to question what we've been told we need to be and start
Yeah.
embracing joy a little bit more. Doesn't mean we have to ignore the people in our lives that care about us and be completely tone deaf, but we need joy. We need things to look forward to. We need things to be excited about. And that's, men too have been through that experience, of course, in many ways. And perhaps more so in the way of maybe suppressing emotions and not being free to
Right.
be with their emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree on the men part. Because I think, again, in society, it's like they are their working their butt off and, 9 to 5, whatever. I mean, that's not every man's job, but a lot of men do the 9 to 5 and then that gets to them, right? So take the weekend and just go do something completely separate from work, leave it alone and just go away and do something fun, right?
Yeah, have some fun.
Yeah. So, Deena, you were going to go into empowerment. Did
Yes.
you have a question about empowerment?
Well, as people recognize trauma and how that has affected them and they work towards feeling safe, then how can we now find that power to make those choices to follow the dreams and give ourselves that permission and that grace and as I'm guessing as that happens, we also start to love ourselves more.
Yes, like it's a process, like depending on what a person's been through, right? So, if someone's been through significant trauma from childhood onward, and then a 25-year marriage on top of that, basically they've lived their entire life in survival mode with a very distorted sense of self. So part of that is allowing the space for transitions. Transitions, if there's a book by William Bridges called Transitions, it helps to understand what the stages look like and feel like. But the beginning is grieving. So as a person releases trauma, inevitably grieving comes along in its own way because you grieve that what was lost for you, which there's always been a loss of some kind with trauma. Even if it's your sense of safety, sense of self, or a chance to experience childhood from a place of wonder, rather than surviving or looking after other things, right? So grieving is the initial ending phase. And then in the neutral zone is in the middle. And the neutral zone is where you need to just slow your pace a little bit and allow the downloads to come and allow the healing to integrate into the parts of you. So no rush, no pressure. You're going to undulate back and forth between ending and neutral zone. You're going to grieve a little bit more and then you're going to come back. And you're going to start getting that vision of the new that you're building. And you'll start to notice what's not you anymore. And that will change the way that you identify with your relationships, your institutions, everything that you built your life on prior to that. You'll start to see it through new lenses. And empowerment at the bottom line, which is from my empowerment coaching school, they often would teach empowerment equals choice. You see more choices and you have more choices in how you show up.
No.
And you both reacted to that. So I know you feel that.
You both
just stop reading our minds.
Empowering. I was just listening
This
to
is the
Mel
problem
Robbins.
with having coaches on is they can read your face and you're like,
And you guys both like visibly reacted when I said that.
I just heard a Mel Robbins podcast that was talking. Oh, we lost you, Cari.
I know,
Yeah,
I don't want to
talking
have to
about,
read anymore of my face.
The horizonlessness is a new term that people they don't even see a future ahead for them. And part of that is having choices. And when you said choice, it really resonates because literally you do have choices. You do have choices that can impact your future. You do have the power to make those choices and change the trajectory of your life, whether it's following your dreams or eliminating something that isn't serving you or choosing fun, for instance. So when you said choice, that having that agency or that choice is very empowering. And it can be so simple as I'm going to shut off my computer at 6 and go for a walk. That is a choice to take care of yourself.
It's even a choice. Like, I'm going to work out even though I don't feel like it today at all. Because we can't wait for the magical unicorn of motivation to fall from the sky. It's not going to happen. So if you're coming on this call thinking I need to get motivated, no, you don't. That's the last thing you need. It doesn't last. It's just like there and gone. So motivation is putting your shoes on to take the walk. That's literally it. That's it.
There you go. There's your life hack.
Okay. It's the decision to turn off the alarm and get up rather than hitting snooze. Boop, boop, gone. Okay. So it's even like, think of it again, parenting the toddler or parenting a slightly older child. You're not going to let your grade 5 child eat Fruit Loops and watch TV all day long. Okay. So you're going to make choices that are for your best interest, even though they're easier not to do.
Right. Fruit Loops, I haven't had those in a long time though.
I'm thinking a mental health day with Fruit Loops and TV would be kind of fun.
The old school cartoons.
Not just all the time. That's all.
I know. I got you.
It's not your default.
No.
No, but that just sounded so good at the moment.
Sounds good in the moment.
Comes up right there. I know what you're talking about.
My toddler just heard
was
that.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
She's got some in her pocket. She's just like.
I will add something too about choice is that when there is an overload of trauma in your nervous system, what you will see as your options will not be there because your creative mind isn't running the show at that point. It's your survival, your primitive brain is running the show. Even your vocabulary is more limited. So if you're looking for your creativity to solve your problems, first you need to feel safe because then you're in trauma. I see this. All I see is this. No end in sight. Life is an endless battle. These are my choices. Sometimes it's damned if I do, damned if I don't. No choices, stuck. So as trauma is released and you kind of like come back to your body safely, organically, you will immediately have a cognitive shifts and you will immediately become more resourceful by default. So it's allowing that process to shift you forward step by step.
I love that. And we just don't know until we go and just even try something that just puts a smile on our face. It could be so little too. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like when I took up the singing, I did it one time and then another time later remotely. I'll probably pick it up again, but I'm just feeling a little like I'm pulled in too many directions to practice right now. But for me, it was actually a big emotional release. Like it was a big emotional release to be so vulnerable. Like it felt incredibly vulnerable. Like I was revealing a part of me that I had not felt safe to reveal. So it freaked me out, right? Like not scared, but just like I had like a visceral response to singing in front of someone else. By myself, no problem, right?
Right.
Funky, whatever. But singing in front of someone else and revealing that part of me, I think that was part of the human experience.
Did you cry? Did you like?
I did sometimes. Yeah, certain situations. Like, would you stop picking love songs for me to sing? Okay, just pick like Pink or something, right? Like make it easy, right? But it was for me incredibly vulnerable because it was taking off walls that I had created.
Well, and you're singing in front of a professional who, yes, is in a capacity as a coach, but you are singing in front of somebody who's a professional and you're inviting critique and coaching and help. And so, yeah, it's super vulnerable. I can't imagine.
That is. Right.
Actually, I've done something vulnerable.
More based on the soul part of it that's coming through because your body's resonating. Singing is your body resonating. So it wasn't even just about not hitting the right sound. It's about revealing myself in that way.
Right. Yeah.
That's deep.
It is. Yeah. I heard even if you're like or ha's, like just that even brings out like chakras moving up towards, coming out of your body and just like it's a whole new vibration in your whole body and around you. Like it actually makes it more joyful around you, just like humming along to something. And it's just like, you just don't know. I always find like if I'm kind of in a bad mood or I'm just like feeling a little down, I'll just throw something on and then I'm like dancing around my kitchen and next thing I'm just like the happiest person ever. Like, it's almost magical. So it's pretty cool that,
I've
yeah.
heard scientific research too around bird song and how it affects us. And we hear so much less of that in our cold Canadian winters. And so I actually found a really nice bird song playlist on Spotify that I will throw on sometimes and like just hop in the shower, play that in the morning, or get on the treadmill and just play that. And it can be in the background when I'm reading a book and it's not going to be interrupting my reading, but there's a scientific facts that even bird song, that type of music, is very good for us.
I think birdsong is like pure joy. Like we have a cedar shrub that the sparrows come back to year after year and they nest. So they have like their big nesting meeting in the morning and the evening. And it's like, it just brings me joy. It just brings me joy. If I step outside, as soon as I hear the birds chirping, my physical state starts to change. I don't like walking outside in the winter. I don't like it, right? But the birds are the best thing. Like they bring me joy.
I think it also relates just back to springtime. It's like fresh and so I think when the birds are chirping, it's outside, then we automatically go into like, oh, it's warming up outside, which brings us more joy that it's warmer outside. I don't know, for me, that kind of happens, but it's the same. I've, got bushes and trees around in my area too. And I know exactly when it's like the morning feeding time or the afternoon feeding time. I can just hear them. And then you kind of know the time of the day and it's actually quite cute. And you're like, okay. And then I've got a nest kind of outside my place too. And so sometimes I'll see them go up into the nest and then like the little newborns will come in the springtime. And it's just so cute to see them just doing that. But then you just like, you can hear them chirp, 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 chirp. And then the difference between that they're actual sort of singing to them, just talking to each other. It's quite interesting, actually. So it is beautiful in itself. I enjoy that too. Yeah.
Well,
And my yoga teacher uses that too. She uses the chirping of the birds and it just like, we'll sit there and just be breathing. And it's just like, you hear the birds and you're like, summer day.
I know. I think it's just pure joy. Like it was so funny. We'd be walking out from the house into our detached garage. So we'd be walking out and the birds are like, chirp, 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 and then we'd open the door and close it and they'd like, like they're all like
they go
quiet. And then we hear one go peep. My husband's like, no peeping.
There's one in every crowd.
Right.
Actually, a funny bird story. We were in Mexico over Christmas and there's a sidewalk you can walk down and you go under a bunch of trees and there was a couple trees for whatever reason is just full of birds and they're chirping like loud and everything. And you kind of run through under there because birds tend to drop droppings, right? And good chance of poop bombs. And like twice I've gotten hit and I was told it's good luck.
Maybe.
Sure, let's go with that.
It's like good luck getting it out of your hair.
No, once was on my shirt, once was on my hat. So I was good.
That's not bad.
So they blessed me that way too, I guess.
Oh, that is so sweet. That's a beautiful story. That's empowering. That is an empowerment in itself. I think we've all just brought each other some joy. We brought our audience some joy in just those little stories. And that can be empowering to change someone's day and think of now they'll go and hear the birds and they'll think of our stories, right? I think that's beautiful. So, yeah.
So Ramona, we want to talk about power shifts because it's the Shift Happens show. So we've given some examples of ways that we can change how we perceive things. We can shift how we treat ourselves. What are some other empowerment shifts that people could start today?
Along the roadmap, on the empowerment roadmap, like so at the beginning is releasing trauma, in the middle is that neutral zone, the ending, and the building the new. Along the way, there's some ways to evolve how we exist in our lives and in our bodies that I like to revisit. So One is boundaries, because typically if there's an excess of trauma, there's usually an imbalance of boundaries somewhere in there. So on one end would be someone who has porous boundaries. So they're overgiving. They might call themselves a people pleaser. That's not an identity, but that's simply a learned behavior. Like for me, the boundaries were too high, right? So it's about finding that happy place of honoring what is yours and releasing what is not yours, and having like clear division between what is not yours and what is yours. So boundaries is a big one, and that takes time. I can't just get into rattle off stuff for people, but it's just noticing what is, how are my boundaries too rigid, which was me, or too porous. And if you feel burnt out and resentful, there's a good chance that they're too porous. And they may be showing up in your work or your relationships. In either one of those situations, you're probably not really taking good care of your body. So boundaries is one. I also like to think about rituals. Rituals tell our body that we're safe. So we start to exist a certain way that feels predictable to us. It feels safe. So that might be, like for me, it's am I taking care of my physical strength? Am I taking care of my rest, my downtime? And there's also emotional and spiritual self-care. So bringing in the pieces of self-care, because again, you can't be your most empowered if you're neglecting your body and you have porous boundaries. Right. Those are things that we need to, the leaks we need to plug or repair, so to speak, energy leaks. Just implementing those pieces, like part of my values in my work is always seeing things through the lenses of your nervous system and your emotions. So if you're pushing and forcing, that's not going to stick. It's going to cause shame, and it's going to put you in a loop of hustle fail or overstimulated shutdown. You'll undulate between those two. Not good for you, right? So in any type of approach, whether it's working on fitness, like I like to think about women's fitness, is what moves the needle towards what you need and want and desire that makes you feel good about yourself. So you'll notice I did not share anywhere in my social media feed about New Year's weight loss plans. There's a reason why, because I don't believe in unsustainable, shame-driven, urgency-riddled approaches to taking care of your body. It needs to become a part of who you are. So you can start where you're at. So start where you're at. Don't go overreaching. There will be times when you have the capacity and the desire to move toward a big, hairy, audacious goal, but not when you're just climbing out of the muck. Okay, so let's recognize where you're at and honor that. Food, same thing. This is why I became a food relationship coach, because when you add a history of trauma, the conditioning of what women should be and do with diet culture, it's damaging. So I like to take that into my values of helping women to find that foundation of I take care of my body, I nourish my body, I strengthen my body in a way that I can live in and like myself and enjoy.
Right. Instead of shameful eating and bad habits repeating itself. And there's a reason behind why we do habits like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's about, we're going to gently dismantle those pieces that we constructed to survive that are not serving you. Your most empowered, self-loving, self-respecting version of you is not jumping on the scale every day and body bashing herself. She's not hammering out cardio day after day in hopes of losing some weight. That's not your most empowered self. So this is where I like to help women find that path that lights them up. Not that it's easy all the time. Like, if it was easy, I'd just eat Doritos and watch TV, right? So there's a happy middle here of how could you live?
Loops.
Yeah, Fruit Loops.
I'm like, wow, we graduated to Doritos now.
Doritos and Fruit Loops just
like,
to mix together.
Girl, you smell like tacos. What's going on? No reason.
Yeah. I think that's really important for us to
Yeah.
recognize that, it's okay to allow yourself fluctuations in these days too. And
Yeah.
you're going to have days when you say disappoint yourself. That don't just give up. That's human. And go back to the basics. Like you said,
Yeah.
go back to the basics. Are you feeding yourself well? Are you allowing rest? Are you taking care of those basic toddler needs? And
Yeah.
that's how it started. And I think that's still one of the best takeaways, is a place to start.
I agree. And don't be hard on yourself. Like toddlers aren't hard on themselves at all. Like they don't go and say, "Oh, I'm," like
I'm so
they don't
ashamed to have
shame
that
themselves, right?
meltdown.
Some days we,
Like you can step into becoming this empowered self, this
Yeah.
more expressed version of you, but step by step and piece by piece, and recognizing that if you're doing some healing
Yeah.
along the way, you need to allow for that.
Yeah. Be gentle on ourselves for sure.
Mhm.
Being gentle is also empowering.
Exactly.
It's interesting. Yeah.
So we started off the hour, and I think it'd be fun to wrap the hour. Cari and I shared some of the things that have been going on in our lives in January. Is there anything, tell us about you, Ramona? What has been happening for you in January? Is there anything, any aha moments, anything that you would like to share?
Honestly, I'm just really leaning into my intuition and spiritual practices for
Oh,
self-care. I'm a more intuitive person to begin with. It helps me to be better at my work. But honestly, the new year did not start well. I had a personal crisis with a family member who was injured and hospitalized. And then I had another issue come up with a family member. So it wasn't like, ta-da! It was more like, I'm taking care of this. I'm taking care of what matters. I feel like I'm being looked after and I'm being guided. So what I'm cooking up now is in my business, I have my gentle trauma release work, and I'm going to be releasing that as a separate brand soon, which I'm excited about for people that need to seek me out that way. And I'm also cooking up a signature program that's going to be a 6-month program that's transformative. And this is going to bring together all of my wisdom and experience into a transformative experience for women, physically, emotionally, mentally.
ooh.
Exciting.
It's a bundle program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is because I've tried playing around with shorter
Yeah.
programs or thinking about the cost. I'm like, nope. If I'm going to help women emerge with this bold transformation, this is what I need it to be. Right. So taking all of the pieces, all the skills that I have in the life experience, and putting it together into what I see as a glaringly missing piece for most women in their self-care, health, and fitness. So
Very
that's
nice.
what I'm working
6
on.
months is still very reasonable to,
Yeah, it's
you're
going
going
to
to see the
be,
results pretty quickly, but it's not super rushed.
It just
it's
gets
setting
you
the
into
foundation.
motivation. Yeah. Then by
So,
then you'll be into routine and yeah,
well,
that's pretty good. I like that.
what I saw a lot as a fitness coach before I took all these other certifications is that emotions were getting in the way. So when I recognize what happens when I work with women for a couple of months, releasing trauma, getting with their unconscious nervous system, their unconscious emotions, their unconscious beliefs and identity, paving the way, then they now have the capacity to build a foundation of strengthening and nourishing. So those are the pieces and that's going to be the sequence is nervous system, emotions, strength, and nourishment in a foundational way, not a slay those goals and become a fitness model in 6 months situation. It's going to be build the foundation where I can actually care for my body and feel like I'm really driving the bus here and I'm liking it.
I love that. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, Ramona, and
Yes, it's been a pleasure.
inspiring us in so many ways, encouraging us
Right.
to embrace our inner toddler and play.
Being
If that's the
vulnerable
only thing you
too.
get out of this is play, have fun. This is
Oh,
Yeah.
can I mention 2 free downloads I can share? Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would say, I have one, if you want to comment gentle, I'll send you what's called a gentle trauma assessment, which will help you to understand if some of the symptoms you're experiencing may be related to trauma.
Okay.
So that's one. And the other one, if you want to comment quiz, and I will send you a food obsession quiz to help to see if food anxiety is taking over your life.
Quiz. Down there
Gold.
for food
Thank you.
or
Quiz
gentle.
or gentle, and I'll send, I'll DM or comment with the link to receive those free resources.
And then if you're watching this on the replay, do you want them to DM you?
Yeah, or they
same-
can comment if
Just
you
I watched the
accept comments
show.
on the video, or
Okay.
maybe however I can see it. So they might need to tag me or so that I see that they've commented. So
Perfect.
Awesome.
what do you think?
Great idea.
Yeah.
No,
Thanks,
I
Ramona.
think that's important. I think because some people might be embarrassed to put their answers down, that
Right.
they can feel free to message you
Absolutely.
and go, okay, this, just because I know when you're going through body shaming or you're going through emotions and you need time to process this a little bit, then go, okay, well, maybe it is this or maybe it's that. Or they may not be sure, they can contact you as well, I think.
Yep. Send me a DM. I'll send you the link for those resources.
Awesome. Thank you, Ramona. And
Thanks,
thank you for
everyone.
sharing your vulnerability with us too, because that just, to us, it's also like, we're all human. We're all going through these transformations in our life, whether maybe we've had trauma or not. But I mean, just getting out and breaking out of our shells and doing something new is extremely important, whatever stages that we're at in our lives. So I appreciate you sharing that with us very much. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a great, well, I guess it's only Wednesday. So, but the rest of your week, enjoy it. And your weekend, go do something fun. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. There we go. Oh my goodness. All those
Just like
golden
that.
nuggets.
Yeah, I love that.
Wow.
What's the first thing? So we want to wrap up pretty quick here.
Yeah.
What's one thing you're going to go do are you going to play tonight? Is there anything you're going to do that you can tell on a clean cut version?
On a clean cut version. I played this morning at yoga.
Oh, fun.
Right. So I think, and then I'm going to go do some reading later as well, because my book is just drawing me in and it's very informative. And I find like that just makes me happy, just learning a little bit more about this and that just gets me excited. So that's fun. And then just gonna, relax for the rest of the day, because I'm going to be, I've got clients tomorrow and Friday. So it's going to be the grind Thursday and a grind Friday. And then Saturday is my show. So I have to, in between everything, prep for that show as well and make sure, that promo is going out tonight as well. So, a mix of the business and a mix of the pleasure and a mix of just downtime for me is it's just perfect, because then I have like, it's not too much, not too little. It's just like right in the mix. And then yoga again will be Saturday morning. So it's like I am excited to do that, and I know it's challenging, but I love a challenge, and that just brings out like the little kid in me. So I'm like, yeah, let's go, right? So how about you, Deena? What's your takeaway from this, other than the toddler thing? I know you said that was like a
Oh
huge
man,
thing.
I love that. I could so relate to that. And maybe
Right?
because I just spent some time with my 3 and 7-year-old grandsons last week. So yeah, I was rolling on the floor and we were playing monsters. Like we were playing hides, you name it. It was fun.
Right? Did you do
And
forts?
it's like,
I love building forts. Just like,
oh yeah, blanket forts. We didn't, but we have in the past. And I think because I was just doing that, and you feel like you give yourself permission to do that when you've got a little one around, it's like,
yeah.
you can play. Like I might not build a blanket fort today, but I'm going to do something fun. I think probably we'll play. I love playing cards and just have a downtime and do that. So that's probably what I'll be doing tonight.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Make sure you win at cards, unless you're playing solitaire.
Yeah.
Still win. You still win.
That's funny because my mother-in-law, who lives alone, one of her friends says, "Well, what games do you play when you're at home?" And she goes, "Solitaire." Like I live alone.
But you can win every single time.
Yeah,
It's uncanny.
Especially if you cheat. Nobody who's gonna know, right? Okay, I gotta run
Perfect.
and
Awesome.
go.
Thank you everyone
find
for
some fun.
tuning in to The Shift Happens, where the shiftiness happens. Next show will be 2 weeks from now, and we're getting into February, which means, you know, bop, 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 bop.
Closer to
Some
spring. So
fun
February 5th,
little,
and we have a guest.
who knows?
And or do we have a guest on the 5th? I think we do, right?
Oh, maybe we got, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we
So
do.
switch
John,
that
I think
around. We got
I
our,
think
we got our
John.
guest on the 5th
Yeah.
of February. And then after
Yeah.
that, or it'll be our Valentine's shift. So maybe we'll have to do a clean cut
Post-Valentine.
again.
So
And then we'll, I don't know.
it's almost like we should have Ramona back for post-Valentine trauma for some people. Okay, gotta
Probably
go.
March, the first one in March.
Yep. Thank you,
That's
everybody,
awesome.
for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
Deena. All right. Have a great week, everybody. And we'll see you
Happy Hump
Saturday
Day.
for Connected with Cari. And then we'll see you 2 weeks for the Shift Happens show. Thank you, everyone. We love you all. Have a great day. Bye.